Traders, how are you? Marcello here, founder of the Day Trading Academy, co-founder of Speed Up Trader, where you guys can come and apply to use our money for a process for just 120 bucks. Today we're doing the recap of what happened in the markets last week. Very, very excited. We're finally kind of migrating everybody over to the new platform that I told you guys about before. You had to pay anywhere between, about $1,000 for a platform, and now we introduced you guys to a brand new one that is free. So in Speed Up, where you guys can come and apply for a funded account, right, where you apply, pass a test, and then you get anywhere between $25,000 to $250,000 account. We're giving you guys a discount this month for my birthday to thank you guys. Obviously, I would never have the success that I have without you. So we're going to give you guys a discount if you guys want to come over to speeduptrader.com or send an email to support@speeduptrader.com. We'll get you set up, help you with the platform. Everybody's loved the platform so far. It isn't mine, by the way. It's a third party, but it's great. And best of all, it is free. In the market news this week, markets opened lower on Monday, weighed by the tech shares as a lot of investors are worried about the global growth fears. On Tuesday, the market went up and gained a bit, followed by the financials have been in a 5-day losing streak and they recovered. The Treasury yield stabilized as well above the 15-month lows. Higher also on Thursday and Friday based on the rise of the Treasury yields off those 15-month lows and also optimism about the economy overall due to the U.S. and China trade talks. The S&P 500 gained 12.3% in quarter one. It's the best quarterly gain since in almost 10 years. The best start to the year in 1998. Remember that December was the worst December since the Great Depression in 1929. And that a lot of people were benefited by the oversold bounce back up after the quarter four's huge 14% slump. A lot of analysts say that they see a positive period ahead. We'll see who's right in about a year from now. Wall Street firms their profits climbed to an 8-year high in 2018. The industry continued to recover after the financial meltdown in 2008. Securities industry hauled in $23.7 billion. I think I said the number wrong, $27.3 billion in pre-tax profits last year, up 11% from 2017, and company profits have nearly doubled since 2015. Overall, the U.S. markets are higher for the week. The Dow is up 1.67%, the S&P 500 up 1.18%, and the NASDAQ up 1.13%. In overseas market news, the stocks began the week sharply lower in Asia due to a reaction due to the disappointing manufacturing data that came out of Germany on last Friday. Not the last Friday, but obviously the Friday before that. So 2 Fridays ago. Warning signal about the U.S. recession may be coming. Canada's main index is on course for its best quarterly performance in June 2009. I don't know if you guys remember, you guys that aren't from Canada, there's a huge scandal going on with the Prime Minister right now. Nothing like a good scandal to get the stock market going. So keep doing your thing, Trudeau. Get another scandal going. Make the markets go up again. Make Canada great again with a scandal. European markets are higher for the week. The biggest winner is the Swiss index at 1.71%, and the biggest loser is Istanbul with negative 6.45%. Latin American markets are mostly mixed for the week as well. The biggest winner is 2.3%, and the loser is my dearest Colombia. I'm going to recommend you guys come and visit. It's a beautiful country, went negative 0.50%. African and Middle Eastern markets, South Africa went up 0.63%, Nigeria down 0.32%, and one of the biggest winners was Saudi Arabia at 0.92% positive. And Asian markets for the week, mostly mixed. South Korea Kospi was the biggest loser, 2.15%, and the India Sensex went up 1.33%. No big news this week for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency news other than the fact that it still has not gotten to 50,000. Don't worry, it'll make it this year, don't worry. Bitcoin went up 1.01% to 4,088.84 cents. In investor news, there's been a global scale to expect the central banks to start lowering interest rates again soon instead of raising them. Yields in Australia and New Zealand are at record lows. If you guys, since you guys, some of you are new, yields are the interest on the debt, the government debt, the bonds that they sell. After a closely watched part of the U.S. yield inverted, remember the lesson that I taught you guys, whenever the short-term interest rates of the U.S. Treasury yields, right, the interest rates of the debt of the U.S., the bonds, when the short-term interest rates invert with the long-term, it's generally an indicator of a recession. Turkey's banking watchdog and capital markets board begin an investigation into JP Morgan Chase advertising. They were advertising their clients to short the lira, causing volatility in the financial markets when the currency, the lira, fell 6.5% against the dollar last Friday. So let me get this right. It's a free market except when they make your currency go down, right? Kind of goes to show you, right, what markets are actually free and which ones aren't. The European Central Bank President Draghi this is funny, temporary slowdown in the Eurozone doesn't necessarily foreshadow a serious recession. I am taking bets that in a year and a half, remember, I'm going to take bets. I'm going to say what the bet is if you guys want to bet with me, okay? Remember that a recession is when 2 or 3 quarters, I can't remember exactly, I believe it's 2, go on Google and confirm that. But when you have 2 or 3 quarters of successive negative growth. So you can have a negative, positive, negative, doesn't count. It's got to be negative, negative, right? So what happens is that those numbers aren't really confirmed until a few quarters away. So if we actually have a recession, let's say that starts, I don't know, in the 3rd quarter of this year, they actually won't confirm it until the middle of next year. See what I mean? So even though he says that, I'm going to go on record, President Draghi, that we will have a recession within the next 2 years. They'll confirm it most likely within the next 2 years. So we'll see who's right. If you guys want to take bets, go ahead and leave your comments here on Instagram or YouTube. U.S. current account deficit increased more than expected in Q4 amid declining exports. There's been pushing the overall shortfall in 2008 to its highest in 10 years, and U.S. companies repatriated a record amount of foreign earnings last year, meaning they brought in money from overseas. It was a record following the Republican tax overhaul. U.S. Treasury yields for the week are far lower, and they're also short-term and long-term are continuing to narrow. Remember the indicator about the recession. Commodities overall this week are on track for their best quarter since 2009, thanks to production cuts from OPEC and also partners including Russia. The U.S. crude, remember, is continuing to rise. They're at a record 12 million barrels per day in production. Overall, U.S. crude for the week went up 1.98% to 60.14 cents. And international Brent went up 1.95% at $68.38. Now, one of the things that's capping prices is the slowing economic growth. Remember, if the economy is expanding or there's an expectation to expand, there's more activity, things are growing, increased demand in oil. So if now we don't have that expectation anymore, for example, now that the central banks are saying that they're not going to raise rates anymore, right? What does that mean? Well, they're not expecting the markets to rise as much anymore. They're also going to stop taking the money out, the quantitative easing, the money that they put in the markets in 2008, 2009. So they're stopping that. So what is that indication of? The economy isn't doing as well as they're saying that it was doing before, right? So if the economy isn't doing well, if there's actually a contraction, that means that there's less demand for oil because there's less activity, right? Other than that, the rising U.S. production is capping prices as well. So even though OPEC and Russia and other partners are putting caps or lowering production, obviously the production in the United States is continuing to rise at record levels. China, which is the world's biggest crude importer, boosted its imports from Venezuela by 22%, also from Iran last month from January. Obviously, both Iran and Venezuela are on the big U.S. sanction list. Total SA, which is a company, one of the biggest oil companies out of France, one of the biggest in the world, discovered a huge deep water oil vital for the country. It's a deep water oil reserve. Well, the only problem is that they have some of the fastest ocean currents globally there in South Africa, and that obviously is going to be a challenge, especially now that a lot of other people are going to start coming in to try to get those kind of exploration and results as well. Palladium used in the pollution. So I don't know if you guys know what catalytic converters are, but palladium is a precious metal that goes into the catalytic converters. So if you guys look under a car, there's like a box looking thing. It's kind of like an oval circle. And that is what allows less pollution. And they put a lot of the palladium in that little system. It's called a catalytic converter. The price surged last week, and now due to the expectation of the economy and what's happening obviously with expectation for the auto sales, it actually went down quite a bit this week. Zinc hit a 9-month high and a peak, and other industrial metals as well gained on Friday, lifted by optimism about the US and trade China deal. I don't know if you guys, one thing I always like to remind you guys of, I'm not going to ever get political here on the program. So whether you love the right, hate the right, love the left, love Obama, Bush, whatever you guys are into, I just want to report the facts and what they mean so you guys can learn. But one of the things that's really interesting and one of the things that I don't want to report every week is kind of this broken news, right? Where it's like, they have a Brexit deal, there's no Brexit deal. They have a Brexit deal, same thing with the US-China trade deal, right? Every week it's like they almost got a deal, oh, they broke down. Oh, they almost have a deal, oh, they broke down. So, that's why that's happening. But at the end of the day, let me guys know if you guys want to hear that every week. But I'm not going to go back and forth on you guys until there's an actual breakthrough in the talks. Other than that, zinc went up due to potential shortages and also low stocks and mining disruptions. Overall for the week, gold went down 1.53% to $12.94, and silver went down 2.04% to $15.20, which is great because I'm looking for entry into some positions. Remember, I'm not a trading advisor. I can't tell you guys what to buy or sell. It's your responsibility. But remember, I told you guys about gold and silver about 2 or 3 years from now. Political news: UK lawmakers on Monday used the vote to literally take the control of the Brexit deal away from the Prime Minister. This is the third time that they rejected the deal on Friday. Now they're going to have to go back and try to break the parliamentary deadlock in order to try to get a deal. In corporate news, Apple is launching its own streaming service like Spotify, trying to find new ways to increase revenue now that the iPhone sales, God forbid somebody doesn't want to pay even more for a flashy phone that everybody else makes the same. Come on, guys. Federal jury awards California man $80 million after saying for the second time now in another court case, a second court case, that Roundup causes cancer. The active ingredient in Roundup is glyphosate, and the first one was already found guilty as well. Now this is the second one. That was made by Monsanto, which was bought by the medical company Bayer, which is out of Germany. So Germany, the German Bayer bought Monsanto, which makes glyphosate, or the active ingredient in Roundup called glyphosate. And there's now 11,000 of those cases against Bayer, against this chemical. So be very careful, because obviously if they're proving it twice now in court, it's probably going to be proved again as well. There's actually a really good article if you guys want to see, look up on Google, states that use the most and least Roundup, zero hedge. And there's a great map that shows you which states use it and don't use it the most. Always better to buy organic, right? Huawei sells the most telecommunications equipment than any firm globally. Remember, Huawei is from China. Their smartphone business is growing faster than Samsung or Apple. Their 2018 earnings increased by 25% at $8.7 billion. Sales fell short of any earlier company forecast, but still surged 19.5% to $105 billion. In trade news, U.S. and Chinese officials resume high-level trade talks as they close in on a deal, supposedly. Technology: India is carrying out an anti-satellite missile test on Wednesday to deter threats to its space assets from long-range missiles, but it has no plans to enter the arms race in outer space. Volkswagen is agreeing to a strategic partnership with Amazon to create kind of an industry cloud. It's going to allow Volkswagen to increase its productivity, since inside of their factories they lose a lot of different software systems, so it's going to make them a lot more efficient. And under new safety rules agreed by the European Union, all new vehicles sold in Europe from 2022 are going to be required to have an intelligent speed assistance system to limit speed as standard equipment. So just buy a car outside of the European Union and bring it in, and you guys will be fine. Uber is announcing a $3.1 billion deal to acquire its rival in Dubai called Careem. It's going to pay $1.4 billion in cash and $1.7 billion in convertible notes. That convertible notes is going to be in Uber shares at a price equal to about $55 a share. And Uber's planned acquisition of Careem comes ahead of their IPO, which could be one of the biggest in the world, or the biggest in the NYC, the New York Stock Exchange, at $120 billion. Careem tracks 30 million users in 90 cities. Europe-based Airbus reached a deal to sell 300 passenger jets to Chinese airlines. I wonder why people don't want to buy Boeing anymore. U.S. Department of Justice has filed a motion calling Obamacare to be struck down in its entirety, siding with a Texas federal district court. Previously decided the individual mandate was unconstitutional. European Parliament has approved sweeping overhaul of copyright rules. It's basically going to make entities like YouTube responsible of copyright infringement on their platforms, not by the users, which was the case before. It's also been reported that Renault is going to restart its merger talks with Nissan within 12 months. After that's done, French car maker wants to be able to buy Fiat Chrysler. Fiat was from Italy. Chrysler was from the US. They merged. So now Renault wants to merge with Nissan, and then they want to go down and take, they're trying to take over the entire industry, it seems like. Saudi Aramco, the world's biggest oil producer, bought a majority stake in the local chemical giant SABIC from the kingdom's sovereign wealth fund for $69.1 billion. I can't even fathom that kind of money. Transfers a huge amount of cash of one part of the state to another to be able to go ahead and try and develop the new Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman economic agenda. Daimler has teamed up with Geely to transform their smart brand into an electric car maker focused on the Chinese vast market. They're each going to own 50% of the global venture. If you guys remember, I talked about an electric car company from China that sells cars at like $7,000, pickup trucks. So they're probably trying to spearhead that because those Chinese make stuff and they make them super cheap. Ride-hailing firm Lyft is listed on the NASDAQ as of Friday, raising its price target to $72 a share. It's giving it a value of $24 billion. Initially predicted share price of $62 to $68. Lyft has already raised over $2 billion through the sale of stock. In international events, U.S. accused Russia of a reckless escalation after they sent military planes and personnel to Venezuela. Trump on Wednesday called on Russia to pull troops from Venezuela, reiterating that all options were still on the table. And a dissident organization committed to the overthrowing of the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, called the Choelima Civil Defense, acknowledged on its website on Wednesday that it was behind the raid at the North Korean embassy in Spain last month. I'm confused. Why does North Korea have an embassy in Spain when most of their population doesn't even travel? Isn't that kind of weird for you guys? Like the one guy that's going to travel to Spain from North Korea every year needs to contact the embassy. Anyway, unusual facts this week. Total value of global stocks and bonds outstanding is valued at about $175 trillion, 8 times higher than when it was in 1990 at $23 trillion. Global assets are now twice the size of the global economy. Global insurance payouts for natural catastrophes reached $26 billion, hurricanes, wildfires, and other events. The IEA, the International Energy Agency, is saying that carbon emissions from fossil fuels hit a record last year. Obviously, this was affected behind the energy demand was at a fastest pace in a decade due to the expansion of the economy, and it also reflected higher oil consumption in the U.S. and more coal burning in China and India. Coal is the absolute worst when it comes to pollution. In a potential boom for private U.S. space firms like SpaceX and Blue Origin, NASA is asking Congress for billions of dollars to be able to go ahead and speed the development of aircraft to be able to fly humans to and from the moon. And last but not least, UK regulator fined Goldman Sachs, the biggest and most important broker in the United States, 34 million euros, which works out, 34 million pounds, which works out to be about $45 million, making 220.2 million transaction reporting errors between November 2007 and March 2017, and I quote, failing to provide accurate and timely reporting to the authorities. So yeah, we're definitely going to trust them, right guys? So that's the news for this week, guys. Thank you for listening. Let me know if you guys have any questions, and don't forget to subscribe. We'll talk to you soon.